Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifestor, and I'm sure you are too, because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting, because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience in order to manifest these amazing lives that we're choosing, right? What I'm discussing today is going to be the topic of gaslighting. And the reason why is because you ever have these moments in your life where you sit there and analyze things in retrospect, right? Most of us do that. And I don't mean like ruminating over something that made you angry. What I mean is just like reflecting on a past experience. One of my biggest things that I love to do when it comes to past experiences is to think, what role did I play in this particular incident? Did I like the outcomes of it? And how could I have done that thing better, right? And so it's not so much about falling on the sword to say, oh, everything's my fault. It's not that. It's just that knowing that whatever occurred in my background or whatever occurred in my past or whatever situation or incident that I'm referring to, there was some role that I played in that situation, right? So that's how I often come up with, just many topics, but also too, just the idea. I've heard this term a lot. I've used it a lot. I understand exactly what it means to be gaslit. But what I did not notice, and this is a more recent discovery, right? That's why we should never stop searching our brains and looking for new information and trying to level up our understanding. Always try to level up your understanding. When I'm looking around, it's like I'm realizing there are subtle, very, very subtle ways that people can gaslight, and it causes major ripple effects and dysfunction in the lives of others, right? So like, what is gaslighting? A lot of people are not really sure about that, but I'll just do a quick rundown. There was either a play or a movie, I might have it quoted wrong, where the man of the house was tricking the woman of the house into thinking that she was going insane. So he would do things like turn on the gas lamp, and she knew that she just turned it off before she left the room. And so he started gaslighting her with lamps, tricking her into believing that she was going crazy because he was playing with the technology in the house to trick her into thinking that she didn't turn off that light, or she did turn on the light and she was going mad. So that's just kind of an idea of overall what that actually means, right? Where it comes from. What I've noticed about the idea of being gaslit is that when we allow this to happen, even if we're gaslighting ourselves or we're allowing other people to do it to us, we are not in a position to break negative patterns in any kind of way, right? And one of the biggest ways is the fact that we're not seeing things for exactly as what they are, right? And this is a prime example. I'll bring you back one, because then I'll show you how it plays into generational curses, right? So this is, I'd say, hypothetical, but it's kind of, it's sort of hypothetical, sort of. Nonetheless, so I'm sitting there one day, and I have successfully brought my children through, the phases of life under 10 years old and all that sort of stuff, to where they didn't have a sense of, what parent wasn't showing up doing what, right? That wasn't even in their kids. They don't even think about it. And neither did I, because I was able to live in that world. I even had a friend come around me during that time and said, girl, you are raising them kids by yourself. And I was just like, oh, shut up, right? Because I was gaslighting myself into believing that I was co-parenting and I was creating. But the thing at the time, though, it was a purposeful gaslight. But at the same time, it was something that I had not truly come to terms with. Like, how did that impact me? Being fully responsible and all these things for these kids, and knowing that, there's not help on the other end, not consistent or reliable in any sense of it, emotional support either for the children. And so I'm like sitting there one day, and one of the kids come to me, usually the older one, they figure out things first. Poor older kids. They figure out things first. They come to me and say, you know what, this is what I'm experiencing with my father-daughter relationship. I don't feel this isn't right. He doesn't do this, and he says he's going to do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, she's noticed it on her own, right? And she's like, and then when I'm over there by my grandparents' house, she just pretends like none of this is true. And I'm like, nobody talks about anything. Do you know how psychologically damaging that is for a child to be in an environment where people do not admit that they are experiencing exactly what they are experiencing? It is detrimental to their development that you do not gaslight teenagers and young adults coming up into this world. One of the biggest reasons why I decided not to continue to gaslight her about the appropriateness of whether this person was showing up and doing what they're supposed to do is because I want her to know what it looks like when someone is not able to love you properly. I will say that again. I want her to know what it looks like when a man is not able to love you properly. It does me no service to pretend to my child that what she is dealing with is somehow love, appreciation, respect, and adoration. She knows what she is feeling. If I sat there and told her, "Oh no, they love you," you're just imagining do you know how detrimental that would be to her growth and development with going out there and choosing mates? Guess what? She would choose poorly because her intuition has been stumped on, and she was gaslit into believing that half-ass relationship that she had with the primary male in her life was how relationships are supposed to go. I was speaking with a person in my family at some point, and I'm super transparent. I'm always like, don't talk to me about stuff that's going to land in these videos in some kind of way, shape, or form or fashion, because it's a part of my story. And I was speaking to them, and I was saying in this situation that this person is exactly what I'm saying. And they completely ignored, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, their own parent does the exact same thing, right? So it lets me know that it's a generational thing. But then it clicked for me. Like, I woke up this morning laying in a bed and it clicked for me. I was like, this is why women continue to pick poor men generation after generation after generation after generation. It's because the women of their generations who can teach and give wisdom about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable have gaslit themselves into thinking that below bare minimum men, thank you, Manifestel, below bare minimum treatment is acceptable to marry, date, and try to create a life in a relationship with, right? And I've seen where people will continuously make excuses for the male behavior, especially as it relates to parenting, and especially as it relates to treating women. If I'm around people who I deem has a poor mindset about things that I'm working through and trying to develop a positive mindset about, I distance myself from them for a while. It's not personal. It's just because I feel like it's a contaminant into me developing a higher level of thinking. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think more people should do that. Your thinking should always be like, how can I see this from a better perspective? How can I see this as higher level, right? And so some would think that that's just putting rose-colored glasses on everything. Well, that's just saying everything is beautiful and zen and everything is amazing and cute. But that's just not the case, especially when you have children come to you and telling you that they're having a negative experience. I would be doing such a disservice to my daughter, like throwing her down a pit of hell. I'm being honest. Being in a bad marriage and relationship is like being tossed in a pit of hell. Because that person is tied to your life and your outcomes and everything that you're creating until you successfully separate. But what I mean is, it's like throwing them into a pit of hell and then in a place where they have to deny themselves their actual feelings in order to keep said fake relationship that they have going, maybe to keep a household together or whatever it is, right? And I'm just not in the business of that. I don't want to pretend with anything, right? And so we just have to make sure that we're not in a position to where we have generations coming behind us and they see things a different way than what we do because they're not exposed to some of the negative perspective that we were exposed to from our generation. And then we have to say, well, maybe they understand this differently, or maybe they can see this in a way that makes more sense, right? I find that people generally often try to make it seem like when you're seeing things exactly for what they are, that you're somehow being negative. And this is a huge thing, especially for people that are like me and probably like you. You're always wanting to get into the highest level of thinking, like, what is the best way that I can do this? What is the best thing that's more? People who are manipulative and abusive and victim mindset, they take advantage of that aspect of who you are because they know you are so willing to see this bright, sunny, version of whatever's going on, right? And sometimes those things are what we need in order to cope, right? It's just a coping mechanism. While we're doing something, it does not give us any value to start thinking about it in a certain way. But when we're past the points of these things affecting us negatively in any real way in our lives, we have to be honest and say this is what it is, right? If a woman or a man is not honest about the type of mate that they chose in their previous relationships, what do? They go choose the type of people again and create these type of environments again, over and over and over again, right? So we just have to keep that in mind. And it doesn't work long term. It only works temporarily for you to gaslight yourself or gaslight your children or anything like that. And what it does is that it creates these generational curses and patterns that we're trying to get away from, right? I would do my daughter a huge disservice if I just told her, yeah, that's behavior of a man when he loves and he cares about your well-being. No, that is not. It is not. And it's okay that it's not. That doesn't mean you demonize him. That doesn't mean you're disrespectful when you go visit him. That doesn't mean you don't show love, appreciation, and honor because it's your parent. But at the end of the day, this child needs to know that that is not what enduring, caring, and supportive love and appreciation looks like from another person. It's the bare minimum. Don't let people gaslight you. This has happened to me in the workplace and everything too. Someone's telling me that this person next to me is not unhinged. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just me. I'm clucking along, getting more and more mentally disturbed. Then someone else shows up and they can look and they're like, is this what you've been dealing with? And I'm like, yeah, they told me that this was normal. Don't let people gaslight you. You don't have to be angry about it. You don't have to be pushy. You don't even have to be upset. You have to speak your truth and know your truth and understand it. And then you have to also look at the people that believe those truths related to whatever you're talking about. What are their outcomes in that situation, right? What are their outcomes in those type of beliefs and mindsets for not seeing people and places and things exactly for what it was? What are their results? And what results do you want? So another form of gaslighting that I want to talk about, or ways that it can happen in your life and your surroundings, is that often people are gaslighting us into their standards, right? This is what I noticed. Sometimes if people do not believe that a situation can be better than what it is, or it can be improved, or there can be a better outcome, many times they don't even know that they're believing that this is not a possibility. When you start talking about things and seeing it exactly for what it is, it may throw some people off into gaslighting you back into a very comfortable space for them, right? So this is common, like say if you're in a church surrounding and all the women are married, all the women have children, all the women are in relationships, blah, blah, blah. But you're suffering some type of mental or physical abuse in your marriage or relationship, right? And then you find out, okay, so-and-so is too. So let me talk to her and see how she's handling this issue, this situation or these environments. And when you talk to this person, she tells you, oh, no, it's not a big, there's nothing, no. This is regular, this is normal. These are the growing pains of the first 10 years of marriage. So this woman in essence is being gaslit into believing in this low standard that this other woman has found and used as a coping mechanism. So this is something to be very aware of. It happens in friendships a lot, sibling relationships, anybody you have conversations with regularly, and you talk about your life and things that you're experiencing. Many times when you are hitting a breakthrough or a stride or trying to outgrow a certain way of thinking or being or doing or living or expressing yourself, you often share the information with other people because you're like, hey, I finally see this in a way that empowers me because it's realistic and I know what I've been through and I know what I had to work through and I know what I'm doing today, right? And so this is the thing. When we do our visualizations and we're doing manifestation and we're trying to create a really specific outcome in our lives, we're often told to be delusional about things until they improve or become better, right? That is when you are on the track of creating and expanding and growing your life. If someone is not really on that track of truly being accountable and seeing themselves exactly for what they are, they probably shouldn't play in a delusional space, because the delusional space just allows them to keep hiding behind not being accountable and not showing exactly what needs to be shown in order to clear it up and then move forward, right? So whenever I say, well, be delusional, it's only when you are trying to create something more than what you are already experiencing, right? What I find is with most people, they're not trying to create something more than their experience. They're using their previous experiences and they're saying, okay, well, that just was a bad person. Let me get another person, and that person is going to change how everything works out. It does not work like that. No. It does not work like that. You will have the same relationships with 10 different people over a 30-year period, and the only thing you'll have done is taken a face and, and changed it from the same exact personalities over and over again, expressing itself the same exact ways. So when I say that people are gaslighting you into their low standards, you have to be really careful and cautious of who you have around you and who's a sounding board for you. Because when you understand something to be a ridiculous act, or you understand something to be unacceptable, you already know that you're right about the unacceptable nature of it. Nothing has changed about that, right? It's just somebody who's around you that just has an idea that they should believe otherwise, but it doesn't really help them either in their lives either to believe in nonsense. So when we do these things, we just have to keep in mind that there's only so much of gaslighting we can do to ourselves before we implode. There's only so much of gaslighting that can happen around you before it truly starts to impact you negatively. Because the cognitive dissonance that has to happen in those situations is truly, it's mind-boggling. It makes a mess of your mind, right? And that's why people always talked about it's crazy making, because it really is, right? And so we have to come to understandings that yes, someone can be worthy of love, worthy of respect, and worthy of appreciation, and they can also be a bad parent. It's okay. It's like we lie to ourselves and like either they got to be all good or all bad. That's not the thing. You respect the parents, you appreciate the parents, you honor the parents, you love the parents. That is perfectly okay. And you can still think, you know what? This person didn't show up for me. This person wasn't emotionally available for me. This person would say they were coming to get me on the weekends and never show up. This person would go 6 months without actually laying physical eyes on me, and they were the parent. These things can coexist. And if we don't actually share with people that you can have feelings that say that behavior was wrong, but I still love you as a person, then we're really messing up our daughters and granddaughters and granddaughters and all that after that by having them believe that something is wrong when they pick out or point out poor behavior. Because if they're not allowed to see it for what it is and point it out and share what they think about it, they're just going to go repeating that. Don't let people gaslight you into their low standards. Keep that in mind. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.